Good morning YouTube, Tula here. I'm going to be outlining, tracing this mandala today. The sound may not exactly fit what you see on the screen because this is voiceover. I closed the room. I hope the neighbor's dog cooperates and we have no barking in the background. I enjoy having a tight grid, as I told you before. When I work, it gives me the freedom to create my shapes and not worry about them, about duplicating them correctly. So what I do is, once it's finished, I either work on tracing paper or on another plain paper. This is an A3 sheet that I cut into a square, sort of a square, so that I can move it around more easily. And I'll be working, as you can see, on a light table that my father once built when he was studying. It must be, well, over 40 years old. Yeah, I was just a baby when he was studying. The masking tape I'm using, I put it on my clothes so that the fibers of the fabric stick to it and it's not as sticky, and then I can remove it easily without harming the paper too much. And I'm doing this because I scan these outlines, and because I want to do as little digital editing as possible, I need the crispest outlines that I can get. I really enjoy working on tracing paper. There are a thin one and a thicker one, and the thick one is really a joy to work with. But when I scan, because the paper is semi-transparent, there is a bit of a shadow and the lines come out blurrier than they would on an opaque paper. So I had to resort to the light table. It's not as comfortable to sit and work with on, but I like the outcome. I will be using a maroon nib, as you've just seen, and my own mixture of ink and gum arabic and water. I add the gum arabic, and I also added a purple ink to this mixture. I thicken it so that it doesn't feather in the paper. This paper I'm using is I got a huge pack of A3 printer paper. It's recycled, and you can really see the pulp and the fibers that make the paper, and it's not very smooth, so my maroon nib does get fibers stuck to it, and it doesn't glide as smoothly as I would have liked on the surface of the paper, but I do like the lines and the crispness that I get with it. Sometimes I use a mechanical pencil with an 4B lead in it, graphite, and that also gives me dark, clear lines, and of course it's much more flowing to use. My movements are less restricted. I used to really rush the outlining part of the work because most of my attention goes into the creation. That's when I'm pausing and thinking and getting into the zone of the work I'm doing. And the same is when I'm coloring it. That's also when I'm in a creative mode and thinking what color I should use and where, and what shades, and where I want to add gradients and other colors, etc. And when I'm inking, excuse me, when I'm inking, I'm just going over lines that I already made. So I used to do that pretty quickly. And of course that was very silly of me, because the lines I'm making now are the lines, that will be in the final piece. So they are very important, and I am trying as much as I can to take my time, be much more conscious of what I'm doing. Oh, I like these little birds. They came out very sweet. You'll see them better when I outline them soon. And they have these long flowing tails. The Maru nib is the thinnest nib that I have. It's nice to work with. It's a Tachikawa Maru nib. It gives very nice lines. It does have variation of thick and thin lines, despite its tininess. What did I want to tell you? I had so many things to say. I will be cutting some parts of the video so that it's not too long, so don't be surprised if you see jumps. I like keeping my videos mostly in real time. I enjoy watching videos that are in real time as well, and I think it's also, well, for me it's nice to see that everything takes time. It's not magic. There's no magic in it that it just appears in a brief minute or two. There is a lot of thinking and concentration and trying to be in the right frame of mind and in the zone. Oh, the lines come out so nice, don't they? I like this mandala a lot. I was thinking about this yesterday, that it's quite magical, this ability that we have now to record the working process, because this is something that if I wasn't able to use the camera and record it, probably no one would have known about it. When there are other people around, I can't share my thoughts and be in the same frame of mind that I am in when I'm alone. And the camera lets you be alone and yet have people in the room with you at the same time, and I think that's really nice. So this is the closest that I can get you to peek into my mind and my thoughts. I'm also quite liking this silhouette of my hand and the nib. I usually try to keep my environment as light as possible so that you can see well what I'm doing. And with the light table, it's the opposite. I have to close the door and have the light of the light box, of the light table, show through. I think I'll make another video of tracing with the pencil so that you can see the difference. It's a shame because I really enjoy the dip pens and the ink. I think the more I think about it, the more I realize that my fascination is with the interaction of the paint, the color on the paper, and the joy of ink I've had since I was a child. I think I got it from my mother. I inherited it from my mother. It's hard to explain this fascination, and every paper is different and every pen is different. And the dip pen, I really like it. I like having to dip all the time and to pause and to take my time and choose my color and have the lines come out not so perfectly, although a smoother paper would have been nice. I was going to say something else, now I can't remember what it was. Oh yes, you can see that I'm not following my sketch exactly. I want the lines to have the natural flow of my hand, even if it's not perfect and even if it's not precise. And in this mandala that I'm working on now, I have these little leaves that that come over the tail of the birds. And at first I tried to skip the lines, but I kept forgetting and decided to go on going over the whole line, because my movement when tracing the curves of the tail feathers, was much more natural. The long curving motion, and having to stop to skip the leaves stopped this motion, and I thought I better get the flowing line and do a bit of erasing in Photoshop. So you will see me, or have seen me, going over the leaves, although they will be foremost in the final work. I really like how this mandala came out. I think there's, I'll say the word again, a really good feeling of flow in it. And I enjoy how the tails of the birds also serve as kind of leaves in this piece. One other thing I want to say about tracing with light books, in case you don't have one. Before I got this light table that my dad made, I was using my tablet. I know there are a few apps that you can download that the only thing they do is make your tablet or phone just an even light surface, and you can use that to work on. It's not as comfortable because, well, the size is limitation, and also I had to be very careful not to touch certain areas, because then I would activate the tablet again and it would go to, it will close the program or get me into the settings or such things. And I've also seen a video once, gosh, I can't remember who or where it was, of somebody. She took a transparent plastic box, transparent plastic, and she put it upside down so that she used the bottom of the box as the surface that she's working on. She put her phone on flashlight, and she put it on underneath on the table so that the light was heading upwards, and she put the box, the transparent box, on top of it, and her papers on top of the box, and so that she had the light coming from underneath the drawing. A lot of people use the windows, the glass panes of the windows, but personally for me it wasn't very comfortable to work vertically, so I only do that when I need just a few lines. And also, if you have a computer and you can change the angle of the monitor, you can just open a blank page, possibly even in Word or something. Just have the light of the screen show up and put your work on it. If it would be the monitor, I would just be very careful with to place as little pressure as possible so I don't harm it. But you know, you can get creative with finding solutions, whatever works. I love how this is coming out. I really like well, I like a few things here. I love the birds with the long tails, and I like the flower buds, and I think I got a nice, I got more interest with the little leaves that are flowing there. You can see that I don't have a lot of details in my mandalas. Well, I do have a lot of details, but I see mandalas that are full of little textures and details, and I think my tendency is not to have as many. This is just what comes out, what I enjoy, I guess. And of course, if you get these and you color them, you don't have to stick to what I did. You can add your own textures and elements and shapes in or outside or around. I'm finding myself, because this is voiceover, what I'm doing is I'm watching what I've already recorded, the inking, the outlining, and talking while I watch, and I find it mesmerizing, like watching calligraphy. It's the same sort of fascination. I just stare. But I know that Well, I think it's easier to watch videos that have sound where someone is talking and explaining, and so I don't want to leave you in silence, and yet here I am staring at the screen. And when I'm drawing, I also tend to get very quiet. Yeah. One day I'll tell you about the part that silence plays in my life. It's a big part. Well, I can tell you about it now, I suppose. I only learned this when I was in my late 30s. It turns out that I had, it's called selective mutism when I was a child. And it's when you are stressed, it's like you can't say a word, you just get silent. And I didn't know this was something, that it had a name, that it was recognizable. I thought it was just me, until I'm getting emotional, until I was in my, as I said, late 30s. I thought I was a very strange creature. And I was sitting at home one day and watching a documentary, and it was about a few little girls. It affects girls more than boys, apparently. And these girls have had exactly what I had. They would just get silent around certain people, even if it's people that they love and care about. For me, I was acting normally around my family, but in kindergarten and in school, they called me a mute. I wouldn't speak in class, just with friends. I would never go to the blackboard. And it stems from anxiety and stress. And it's incredible because in my mind I could answer everyone and I could speak my mind, but it's like you are behind a glass wall, and my words were only in my mind. It's a physical feeling, in a way, that you just can't say anything out loud. And I guess they laughed at me or thought I was very strange. And the thing is that I still have the effects of this, the selective mutism, in my life. And mostly now with people I care about. And when I'm afraid of disappointing people, I disappear. It's easier for me not to say anything. than to say no or to say something negative. And that's why making these YouTube videos is so important to me. I'm still amazed that I can speak my mind and express myself so publicly. And I guess this ties to what I said before, that I'm alone in my room, in my safe environment. So it feels like it's just me, but I'm able to share this with all of you out there. I didn't mean to speak about this just now. I've been planning for ages to one day say something about selective mutism, because I think it's not a very known phenomena, and so many children can be helped and encouraged. And I grew up in the 70s, you know, everything was different back then. The psychologist I was sent to I hated going there. I would just sit and say nothing and wait for the time to pass. I hated her. And as a child, you know that you're different, but you're not sure why. And you're stuck in the habits and with perceptions of people about you, and you don't know how to change them. And I was always dreaming in all my teen years of going somewhere else and starting anew. But of course, I didn't go anywhere. I was in my environment, and I wasn't able to just abruptly make a change, because the conceptions were there, they were fixed. And I really wish I could talk to that child and tell her that it's going to be alright, that I'm going to be fine, and I'm going to have a fairly good life, and have friends and family and support, and people who love me. And that school will be over one day. That's so important. I know for some people school years are a very happy time of their life. And I hated it. I hated the system, the inflexible, rigid system, and the peer pressure, and everyone laughing at me, and being so different and not knowing why I'm not like them and how I can change it. I thought my whole life will be like in school. And for so many years afterwards, until I was about 30, I really tried to change myself to fit what is normal, what's considered alright, and to I'm missing the words. So until I was about 30, I was really trying to subdue what is different about me and be more like everyone else. And I think only about when I was about 30, I realized that what's different about me is also what makes me unique and special. And I started trying to get it back. Okay, so my my tracing is done, and this is the result. And I'm sorry to dump this on you unannounced. Maybe I'll say something about it in the description, so whoever doesn't want me to pour my heart or to listen to it won't have to. It would have been easier to just put some background music, right? But that's not me. I want to remind myself and everyone that we don't really know what's going on inside other people, and that it's really easy to pass judgment and categorize, and probably most of the time our judgment is wrong. So we should try to have more compassion toward one another, be more tolerant and open, give people a chance. And I hope you like and subscribe. Okay, I'll stop now. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.